Hey, and welcome back. You might notice that I'm in kind of a different space than I was last time I spoke with you. And that is because I swapped my living room with my bedroom, and it is feeling so good, so expansive already, just from swapping the layouts out. So I wanted to share that with you. If you've been wondering about changing something up in your home, let me know, because yeah, it can be life-changing for sure. I don't have a PowerPoint for today, and that's because I want to show you something a little bit different. And that is how you can start to conceptualize your space without fancy design software, without necessarily hiring a designer, at least at first. You might decide you want to later, depending on where you are and what you want. But this will allow you some tools to be able to conceptualize your space, especially if you have felt uncreative about it, or like you didn't have what you needed to be able to move forward in this category. To some extent, yeah, you do, actually. You definitely do. So you will want to grab some supplies. You'll need a printer for this, so I hope you have one. You'll need some markers. Now, it would be so cool if you could grab like a multitude of markers or colored pencils or something to color something up with. If you don't have it, it's okay. We can still do some sketching together. But you will need at least like highlighter colors, or like a red pen, highlighter, green, whatever. Like, at least give yourself a few different colors so you can mark up this drawing. This photo. And one of the most important things you can actually get is something called trace paper. Now, you can pick this up at any Michael's or places like that. And this is beautiful. See this? Semi-transparent. It's going to allow you to conceptualize on different layers of this. So you don't have to keep reprinting this photo. You can just layer on top and top and top and top and top. So we're going to do that. First, I need to go on D&D, which I forgot to do. All right, cool. So pause this video and come back when you have those supplies. Okay. All right, let's jump right in. So I have my trace paper, which I'm going to rip. Super fancy. Just going to rip that right off. And you may or may not have such a large roll as I do, but I'm actually going to have to split this in half again, because I don't quite need such a big sheet here. Actually, it's really big. My eyes are bigger than my stomach, I guess, in that case. So what you want to be able to do is you want to be able to cover your photo with this trace paper. Now, see how easily you can see through to this? That's great, isn't it? Because now you can really see the bones of your space. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is this. Grab your three like highlighter colors. And again, that doesn't really matter as long as they can stand out from the photo and you can identify which is which. Now write yourself a little bit of a legend. Mine is going to be this. I'm going to do like the stop go colors. All right, so red is going to be for things in my space. So I'm a renter, so this may or may not apply to you as much, but it will apply to you on some level, because guess what? Even if you own your home, there are certain things, I hate to break it to you, you're gonna not be able to change about your home unless you want to demo the whole thing or spend a ton of money on things like moving columns, which is just not feasible for most folks, or you may not be able to do it anyway, even because you might be depending on your local laws, jurisdictions, and your contracts for your home. You could own, for example, a condo, and that's great, but you can only change what's inside the condo to a certain extent because of what your surroundings are. So you will want to consider throughout the process, like, what can I actually change versus like what's embedded in this home. Again, whether you're a renter, whether you buy and you have a condo, whether you've bought and maybe you want to move a column that's going to be very difficult to move, like, make a note of those things kind of right now, and that's what we're going to be marking up on this drawing. So I'm a renter, and I will tell you that there are certain things in my particular space in this room that I cannot change. I would not be able to change without getting, I don't know, pinged or even potentially sued. We do not want to go there, right? So one of those things is there's like a access door to, I'm assuming, a very small crawl space above my space here. Can't move that. So I'm gonna have to mark that up. Also, some things that I can't change. You can't see it super well, but there is a vent for a heater right here. Can't change that either. There's also a small access door down here. The fire and carbon monoxide thing, that's up here. These are things that I cannot remove. Well, actually, this one, that I could move, but I couldn't get rid of. So that's gonna actually go in a different category we'll talk about in a second. So if there's anything in your space that's just like fixed, stuck, couldn't move it, or couldn't move it without like a huge, big thing that you don't want to deal with financially or just construction-wise, mark that up now. Using your trace paper. So overlay your trace paper and make a legend for yourself. I'll show you this now. Mine is going to say, okay, this is a non-changing, we'll just call it non-changing. Whatever you want to identify it as. That's good enough for me because I know what I'm referring to here. But effectively what I'm doing is I'm going to mark up this drawing and basically say, okay, I know that there's a vent over here, can't change that. I know there's an access panel over here, can't change that. I can't change the tiles, but I can change how the tiles look. So that's going to go in a different category. Let me know if you have any questions below, because it's not always super straightforward, especially if you're not a designer. What is like easy to change versus not. And even if something isn't easy to change, there are solutions, which we're going to talk about. Okay, so those are kind of the two biggest things for me. And then of course there's that access panel for the crawl space. There's also these, God, why are words not wordsing for me today? These dividers, I'm just going to call them dividers. Layman's terms is probably better right now anyway for you guys. All right, so these things that are holding up my ceiling panels and the wall panels, because the space that I'm sitting in right now is an addition. Where I used to have my office was the original cottage, like I don't even know if it was late 1800s, early 1900s, but it's like, it's old, right? The walls are bumpy, they've been painted over, it's like painted over brick. Some is just like stonework. So this is very different in here because we have these panels for this addition, right? So I started to mark up where I can't change certain elements. They're kind of fixed. That's okay. All right, next, part 2. You're going to grab your second color. For me, that's going to be a yellow. And I'm going to go over and make sure, try to like allow this to dry a little bit before you go over it with the other colors, because what I'm going to tell you is that I almost smudged mine just now, and we don't want to like make a mess on your hands or also make things confusing on your trace paper here. So, okay. So the next thing we're gonna do is like maybe stuff that doesn't move very easily, or maybe it moves, maybe it doesn't move at all, but you could like do something cool. You could still do something with it, like you could still change it and modify it in some way. So that's gonna be the next thing. So here are some examples for me. Again, you'll have to kind of figure out what those are for you in your space. For me, I gotta tell you, the flooring isn't bad by any means. You see my flooring here. It's not bad, you know, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's just not like how I would choose to express myself in the most authentic, cute, cool, whimsical, whatever way that I would like to do. So I'm gonna make this into a yellow color. Okay, and I'm gonna again mark it up on my legend. Now I might need to use some backdrop colors here for this to be legible because it's yellow. But my legend's gonna say somewhat somewhat changeable. All right, because I'm not gonna rip out, again, I'm a renter. Even if I wasn't, ripping out a floor is a task and a half. If you've done it before, you know. So I'm a renter here. I have no desire or necessarily, I'm not gonna be ripping out this floor, but I could maybe put something on top of it that would be cool, that would be in alignment with my goals. There's all kinds of ways to do that. We can talk about that in future videos if that's of interest, and I think it will be. So flooring, that's one for me. Think about, what's one for you. Another one for me is these closets right here. Now these come with the apartment that I live in now, and they are movable though. They are movable. So I'm gonna mark these as, I don't know if I need or want to move these, but it's good to kind of note, just in case during the design process I might decide like, hey, you know what, I actually want to move these around a little bit. I could decide to, instead of where they are now, have them flanking my window. So they do need to stay within the space, but I could move them around a little bit. So now keep this in mind actually too. If you live in the state that I live in, which is California, you may need to be careful about how and where you place certain furniture items, especially certain furniture items of a certain height, because of earthquake codes and concerns. So if you have anything tall that you're looking at potentially moving around in the furniture, make a mental note of that and make sure that it's strapped properly to the wall per guidelines. So these could move if I wanted to. So I'm going to mark them up. I don't know if I'm going to move them. Probably not, but they're there anyway. All right. Now let me look. Take another look around your space. Is there anything that, isn't totally movable, but maybe like somewhat changeable, right? The other thing I could do is if I wanted to change the color of these, I probably wouldn't, because again, I'm a renter, but like for most people, if they've got cabinets in their home, they could probably paint them or put some sort of decal on them or something. So that's kind of it for me. Third thing, these cord covers. They're great because I have cats, and one of them really loves to chew on cords, which stresses the cat mama out. But so these cord covers are great, but they're not exactly the right color. And I think that since I started buying these, they actually came out with more colors, which is great. It'll be blending in a little bit more. I certainly could stand to do some more cord organization. There's different ways to do cord covers. You could build something. Again, what's going to make sense for you if you own versus rent, etc. How often do you reconfigure your space? Kind of consider those things. But they do have these cord covers in different colors now, as I understand it, so I might change those. So maybe I can't change where the outlets are in my home, for example, but I can change how I cover them or how I organize them. So I'm going to make a note of these cords here because I got to do something with that. Yep, but I can't change the whole shebang because the outlets are where they are. And that's just it. Okay, so that's thing number 2, the somewhat changeable items. Thing number 3, and this is my third color. Again, do what works for you. I have green. And this is going to be the stuff that's great the way it is. I mean, I might decide to move it if it works better for the layout, but it's just, I love it. Stuff that's working, right? Generally. Doesn't mean you won't ever change the location of it, but it's probably going to stay in your space. This is the stuff you look around and say, yeah, I freaking love that. Grateful that's in my space. Okay, so for me, and I could keep showing my photo, but I feel like it's easier because I'm just sitting in here with you. Things that I love in my space that are working, plenty. So this lamp that I have over here is maybe one of my favorite pieces of furniture in my entire house. I love the feathers. I love how it's playful, whimsical. I love the configuration of it. I love how the way to turn it on It's like a floor step thing. You don't have to get on your hands and knees to like turn on some little knob like we did back in the 90s and whatever it was. I love that thing. No offense to the 90s. I love the 90s. I love the 80s, love the 90s. But yeah, sometimes design features just evolve. And so here we are. I'm obsessed with my sofa and the pillows that are on it. Super cute. That's definitely going to stay. And it works well for me. The configuration, the layout, the fabric type, all of it is great. Same with the rug. Both the rugs. Same with the other chair that's over here that you can't see. And I do really like my built-ins the way they are. Those could be a different color, but that's a different assignment because it's not it's not in this photo. Because, you know, rooms tend to be four-sided, four-walled, not always, but oftentimes there's multiple sides and perspectives, right? So I want to do this obviously for the other perspective of my room, but I'm not going to do that today because today is an example for you to get you to show you how this conceptualization process works. So other things that are working. So we talked about, and again, reflect on this for yourself. What do you just freaking love? Wouldn't do a thing. Love the cat tree for my cats. Clearly, my cats love it. It's a little perch for my little fluffer. Yeah. So there's a lot that's working. I do really like the fact that I have a little bit of extra space above my cabinets to place like fluffy, cute things, you know, extra stock of those. That works for me. I love having fluffy things around. It's great. So I'm gonna mark that up in on my trace paper. And if you need to draw some grounding lines for your space with like a black marker, totally do it. I've just been doing this forever, so I don't really need it, but you might, for example, prefer to draw some perspective lines in the space just to help you keep track of what's going on here. And that's totally cool, right? You might want to frame out things like doors. So if that's helpful to you, go ahead and do it. I'm not going to do that for mine, but feel free if that helps you. And it does sometimes for people. So, okay, so I'm loving my couch. Thank you, couch. Loving the cat tree. Oh, one thing I didn't mention that you often can't change or be extremely difficult to change are things like windows and stuff. Like, yeah, you could if you had a lot of money and, you know, you own your space, but that doesn't apply to everyone. And sometimes you might just say, I could do this, I have the money, but I just really don't feel like going through all that construction effort. That's fine too. I should have put that in my can't change department. I can't change it, but honestly, I love it, so it's not going anywhere. We're actually going to make that both colors because, yeah, I can't change it. I can't do anything with it, but you should see the view that I have from that window. It's absolutely stunning. I have just hills in the background. It's beautiful. So yes, I can't change it, but also I wouldn't even if I could. So there's that. Oh yes. Okay. So this starts to give you an idea of just how much in your space is workable, changeable, what you would want to change, what you would want to leave the same. It kind of gives you a sense as to your pros and cons, visually speaking, and also kind of like percentage-wise when you have an overview of this space. So when I have an overview of this space, what is the story that it's telling? The story that it's telling me personally is like, wow, there's a lot that's working in this space, and there's a few things that like maybe aren't 100%, but we can, you know, we've got cosmetic things we can do, and that's great news. The only things that are going to be a little bit more tricky for me personally are where I have these like access doors, because they're in kind of like weird places. They're not like well, how do I say this? They're kind of weird places. They're kind of like, really asymmetrical. They kind of pop out of nowhere. They're not they don't look planned, right? And they weren't because this is, it was probably an addition that was put together back when, things were a little bit less, well, it probably was, we'll put it this way. Trying to find the right word. Sorry. It was probably done, certainly not by like an architectural, but more of just like, hey, let's throw this together. It needs to get done. Like it wasn't, more artistically intentional in that way. And that's okay, but we're going to have to work with it. So access panel here, there's also an access panel down here. Oh, and there's a heating vent here. So those kind of three things. Oh, another thing. And you don't have to nail everything in your trace paper right now. I'm just trying to nail as much as possible because I know that when you do this on your own, you want to have as many examples as possible. So for me, another yellow example that I want to show you is actually my lighting fixtures. Now, you see right up here, there's a lighting fixture. There's a similar one right above me. And they're not bad. They're pretty fixtures, and they're kind of like retro antique. Like someone might actually really like them. And if you keep them clean, they look really nice. But to me, they're a bit boring, and they're not exactly how I want to represent myself in my space. So let's mark those up too. Okay. So that is something that is somewhat changeable, right? Like I can't exactly change where the light source is without a lot of, a lot of work. But I could potentially change the type of lighting fixture that goes there. And I'd love to change it to something that was a little bit more nature focused and whimsical. Also, my cat says hello. Say hello, baby. Hi. Yes. Okay, so that's another example of a yellow kind of like in the middle thing that we have going on there. So once you have this done, I want you to ask yourself, what story is this telling you about your space? About like what your kind of abilities and limitations are, just so you can kind of sit with that and really ground in what's possible for your space versus what might need a workaround versus what you're probably not going to be able to do too much with. So that is some good information for you. I'm going to spend other videos going through some similar techniques that will take you a little bit further down this conceptualization process. But for now, this is plenty, and I really would like for you to take the time to sit with this activity, really go through every component of your space. We didn't go through all today, we went through probably most of the important ones, and really think to yourself and reflect, as changing space is a personal development activity. Think about what you have the abilities to change, what you want to change, and eventually we're going to get to how you want to change it too. But for right now, this tells you a story. Mine says, there's a lot of grid stuff going on here. There are some things that maybe not ideal but could be modified, and then we do have some tricky items which we will work around with regard to some of the bones of the structure. So that's a conceptualization process for today, and I hope that it's going to help you really outline what's possible for change in your space as a baseline. We haven't even discussed how you might want to change it, but just as with any other personal development activity, you kind of need to know where you are before you look at where you want to go next. Let's get a baseline, right, for where you and your space are right now with this, and go from there once you've had a chance to kind of take a look at this. So let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and let me know what stuck out for you as far as what's working and not working in your space, and if you have any questions or if there's any topics you'd like me to explore further, I'm happy to do that. All right, have a great day. We'll see you next time.